We know our planet is heating up, but what can we do to stop it? One of the ways being investigated to fight global warming is an innovative technique called CCUS, which stands for carbon dioxide capture and storage.
How does CCS work?
Well, to find out, we first have to talk about the greenhouse effect and about carbon dioxide, or CO2, and then we'll see why capturing CO2 is one of the ways of fighting global warming. CO2 is a colorless, non-toxic gas. Together with water vapor, CO2 is the main gas that naturally causes the greenhouse effect. CO2 is released into the atmosphere when carbon compounds are burned in the presence of oxygen. A power plant like the one in Le Havre, which produces electricity for 600,000 people, releases 500 tons of CO2 per hour. That amount of CO2 would fill 250 million 1-liter bottles of sparkling water every hour.
And that's a lot. What about the greenhouse effect?
The greenhouse effect is a natural phenomenon that has a very important role in regulating the climate. Without it, life could not exist on Earth, because the average temperature across the world would be about minus 18 degrees Celsius instead of 15 degrees. The greenhouse gases in the atmosphere keep the Earth's temperature at a level that can sustain life by preventing infrared radiation from escaping.
So why are greenhouse gases becoming a problem?
For some years now, there's been a lot of concern about the Earth's climate getting warmer. The main reason is that the greenhouse mechanism is becoming hyperactive because of the extra greenhouse gases that human activities are releasing. This is causing environmental problems that have serious impacts such as droughts, heat waves, floods, glacier melt, and hurricanes. They're affecting the quality of our lives and causing health problems, with the risk that the human population would stop moving away from the worst affected areas. Therefore, the pattern of human development since the Industrial Revolution and our increasing reliance on fossil fuel, gas, coal, and oil across the world are the reasons why the greenhouse effect is overheating the planet.
You mean it's people who are causing the problem?
Mainly, yes, because of the extra CO2 we're releasing. The more CO2 accumulates in the atmosphere, the more the climate heats up.
So we've got to stop releasing CO2.
This is where the idea of capturing the CO2 comes in, which scientists think is a very important step to fight global warming. The idea is to capture the CO2 released by industries like power plants, steelworks, cement works, and oil refineries before, during, or after burning fossil fuels, which we can't do without at the moment. The captured CO2 is then transported through pipelines or in ships to permanent storage sites deep underground where it cannot escape into the atmosphere. The most effective technique so far involves scrubbing out the CO2 contained in factory smoke with chemical solvents. These react selectively with the CO2 when they come into contact with it. Once the solvent has fixed the CO2, it is heated to release the gas, which is then compressed and transported to a storage site.
How is the CO2 stored at the site?
The CO2 has to be pumped into injection wells that go at least 1,000 meters down where the gas becomes denser and takes up less space. There are a lot of good potential underground CO2 storage reservoirs around the world in which the gas, once dissolved, will become mineralized after a few thousand years. At the 5 storage sites already operating in the world, for example in Norway since 1996 and in Algeria since 2000, observations and measurements are made to check that the CO2 is safely sealed off.
Isn't it a strange idea to store CO2 underground?
Not really. Natural underground deposits of CO2 have existed for millions of years, and potential reservoirs around the world could store up to 200 years worth of CO2 at current emission rates. Another solution is to recycle the captured CO2 into other activities that already use it, or to find new uses for it. This would create added value as well. Captured CO2 could be reused in the food industry, to make fizzy drinks for example, or in horticulture to boost the growth of greenhouse crops like tulips, or to grow algae. Strong commitments to substantial reductions in environmental impacts have been made in recent decades through various treaties, summits, and protocols. Acting against global warming also means using natural renewable sources of energy that do not produce additional greenhouse gases. Hydropower, wind power, solar power, and wood can also be used to produce heat and even electricity. A lot more effort is needed everywhere across the world.
We can all help to fight global warming.
To release less CO2 into the atmosphere, we simply have to use less energy. And that means using less electricity and water, insulating buildings, and using means of transport that do not rely on oil, for example.
Everything we do to save energy will help to save our planet.
We have to develop solutions, and CO2 capture and storage is one of them. In France, large and small businesses are working with researchers to promote CO2 capture and storage.